Okay, I think we got it. I think we're started. We're recording, and we're on set. Okay. All right. Well, welcome everyone to another day of walk through Revelation. And today we will be walking through Revelation chapter 18. Okay, Teresa, would you like to try and read Revelation 18, please?
After this I saw another angel coming down from heaven. He had great authority, and the earth was illuminated by his splendor. With a mighty voice he shouted, "Fallen! Fallen is Babylon the Great! She has become a dwelling for demons, and a haunt for every impure spirit, a haunt for every unclean bird, a haunt for every unclean and detestable animal. For all the nations have drunk the maddening wine of her adulteries. The kings of the earth committed adultery with her, and the merchants of the earth grew rich from her excessive luxuries." Then I heard another voice from heaven say, "Come out of her, my people, so that you will not share in her sin, so that you will not receive any of her plagues. For her sins are piled up to heaven, and God has remembered her crimes. Give back to her as she has given. Pay her back double for what she has done. Pour her a double portion from her own cup. Give her as much torment and grief as the glory and luxury she gave herself. In her heart she boasts, 'I sit enthroned as queen. I am not a widow. I will never mourn.' Therefore, in one day her plagues will overtake her, death, mourning, and famine. She will be consumed by fire, for mighty is the Lord who judges her. When the kings of the earth, who committed adultery with her and shared her luxury, see the smoke of her burning, they will weep and mourn over her. Terrified at her torment, they will stand far off and cry, 'Woe, woe to you, great city, you mighty city of Babylon! In 1 hour your doom has come.' The merchants of the earth will weep and mourn over her because no one buys their cargo anymore. Cargoes of gold, silver, precious stones, and pearls, fine linen, purple silk, and scarlet cloth, every sort of citron wood, an article of every kind made of ivory, costly wood, bronze, iron, and marble, cargoes of cinnamon and spice, of incense, myrrh and frankincense, of wine and olive oil, of fine flour and wheat, cattle and sheep, horses and carriages, and human beings sold as slaves. They will say, 'The fruit you longed for is gone from you. All your luxury and splendor have vanished, never to be recovered.' The merchants who sold these things and gained their wealth from her will stand far off, terrified at her torment. They will weep and mourn and cry out, 'Woe, woe to you, great city, dressed in fine linen, purple and scarlet, and glittering with gold, precious stones and pearls. In 1 hour such great wealth has been brought to ruin.' Every sea captain and all who travel by ship, the sailors and all who earn their living from the sea, will stand far off. When they see the smoke of her burning, they will exclaim, 'Was there ever a city like this great city?' They will throw dust on their heads and with weeping and mourning cry out, 'Woe, woe to you, great city, where all who have ships on the sea became rich through her wealth. In 1 hour she has been brought to ruin.' Rejoice over her, you heavens. Rejoice, you people of God. Rejoice, apostles and prophets, for God has judged her with the judgment she imposed on you." Then a mighty angel picked up a boulder the size of a large millstone and threw it into the sea and said, "With such violence the great city of Babylon will be thrown down, never to be found again. The music of harpists and musicians, pipers and trumpeters, will never be heard in you again. No workers of any trade will ever be found in you again. The sound of a millstone will never be heard in you again. The light of a lamp will never shine in you again. The voice of bridegroom and bride will never be heard in you again. Your merchants were the world's important people. By your magic spell, all the nations were led astray. In her we found the blood of prophets and God's holy people, of all who have been slaughtered on the earth.
Okay, I think 18 is one of the longest chapters in Revelation compared to 15, which is the shortest chapter of Revelation. Okay, well, we'll go forth and see what happens here. We can get this. There we go. Babylon the Great has fallen. Babylon the Great, what is it? Three main choices. Is it a literal rebuilt ancient Babylon, the city of Rome, America, or a specific city like New York? We'll talk about that a little more. Last week we talked about Mystery Babylon. This time we'll talk about Babylon the Great. Come out of her, my people. What does that mean? Then we're going to see the destruction of Babylon, and the merchants of the earth will weep and mourn over her destruction. Okay. Let's look at some images. Okay, so the Bible says that the city will be destroyed in the span of about an hour or so. And it said it was going to burn with fire. So we got the city burning with fire. We got Babylon sitting as a queen, and a lot of adulterous things going on. The wealthy of the world will mourn at her loss. And an angel throwing a big boulder into the sea. Okay. All right, Babylon the Great. What is it? This is the political economic system of Antichrist as opposed to the religious system. Revelation 17 was the religious system that was destroyed. And this time it is the political/economic system. It is an actual city and seat of power of the Antichrist. Because of what is written in 18, it must be a coastal city or close to the coast. Because water is involved. The merchants are merchants in ships, and the boulder is being thrown into the water, and more destruction comes upon the city. So in here it seems like it has to be a coastal city. The city or the system itself has made many people rich, and we find that it is full of wickedness. Okay. Babylon the Great, literal rebuilt ancient Babylon. We'll start reading here. Back to Babylon. Again, this is from Mark Hitchcock's book, 101 Answers to Questions About the Book of Revelation. Amazingly, the book of Revelation contains 404 verses, and 44 of these verses deal with Babylon. Revelation 17 and 18 specifically, or mostly. When you add in Revelation 14:8 and 16:19, which also speak of Babylon's future, the total number of verses dealing with Babylon ends up being 44. That's 11% of the entire book of Revelation is devoted to one subject, Babylon. Think about that for a moment. In the final book of the Bible, God's great apocalypse or unveiling of the future, more than 1 out of every 10 verses concerns Babylon. Clearly, Babylon holds a central place in God's final plan for the ages. But what does Revelation have to say about this great city? Down through church history, most Bible interpreters have thought that in Revelation 17 and 18, Babylon was some kind of code word for some other entity, like the city of Rome, the Roman Empire, Roman Catholicism, Jerusalem, apostate Christianity, or even the United Nations, New York City, or Great Britain. However, I believe that just like Israel refers to Israel in the Bible, so also Babylon always refers to Babylon. In Scripture, Babylon always means literal Babylon, with one possible exception. Many scholars believe that in 1 Peter 5:13, Babylon is used symbolically as a code word for Rome, but that appears to be the lone exception to the rule. Dave, can you read 1 Peter 5:13? Sorry, I should have prepared you. 1 Peter 5:18. 5:13, sorry.
What?
1 Peter 5:13.
And the God of all grace, who called you to his eternal glory in Christ, after you have suffered a little while, will himself restore you and make you strong, firm, and steadfast.
That's 1 Peter 5:13.
1 Peter?
1 Peter 5,
Yep,
verse 13.
yep. No.
Yeah, try it again.
She who is in Babylon, chosen together with you, sends you her greetings, and so does my son Mark. Greet one another with a kiss of love.
Okay, so Peter was in Rome at the time when he mentions that for all those that are in Babylon. So Babylon in that case could mean a code word for Rome. And that's what he was saying here. That many scholars believe that in 1 Peter 5:13, Babylon is used symbolically as a code word for Rome, but that appears to be the lone exception to the rule. That being the case, and because the Old Testament prophets form the backdrop for Revelation, it would be strange for Babylon to mean literal Babylon every time it's found in the Old Testament. Yet for the meaning to suddenly change in the final book of the Bible, which draws so heavily from the ancient scriptures. Henry Morris supports a literal understanding of Babylon. It must be stressed again that revelation means unveiling, not veiling. In the absence of any statement in the context to the contrary, therefore we must assume that the term Babylon applies to the real city of Babylon, although it also may extend far beyond that to the whole system centered at Babylon as well. Babylon is clearly identified in Revelation 17:5 as the source or mother of all false religion, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. What biblical city is the genesis or foundation of all false religions? Only one, Babylon. In Revelation 17 and 18, the city of man is symbolized by a seductive harlot riding on the back of the Antichrist, which we saw last week in 17, who is depicted as riding a wild beast. The connection between Babylon and the beast, or the Antichrist, indicates that the two will be closely allied. Babylon in the end times, like Babylon in the beginning, will be both a false religious system and a literal city on the Euphrates River that will serve as an economic, commercial capital for the Antichrist. It will be both a city and a system. Revelation 18 describes the political and economic system based in Babylon under the rule of the Antichrist. Prophesies the final destruction of the city of Babylon just before the second coming of Jesus Christ. Babylon, the pinnacle of human materialism and sensuality, will fall. The final act of God before his Son returns to earth will be the destruction of Babylon, man's city. Let's see. Then, a few chapters later, in Revelation 21 to 22, God introduces the heavenly city, the New Jerusalem. The contrast is clear. Man's city, Babylon, is a corrupt harlot. God's city, the New Jerusalem, is a clean bride. Man's city is eliminated. God's city is enshrined. Man's city is removed from the earth. God's heavenly city will come to the earth. The call for God's people is to live for that which is above, that which will last as we await our Lord's coming. Okay. So, Babylon the Great, is it literal rebuilt ancient Babylon? Some people, like Mark Hitchcock and I, believe this is to be a literal rebuilt city of Babylon. We looked at that a couple of weeks ago when we first were introduced to the city of Babylon. Saw pictures of it. There are promises of God in the Old Testament that proves the utter destruction of Babylon, which has not yet occurred. Believing Isaiah 13 and Jeremiah 50 and 51, believing the verses in Revelation 18 to be that destruction. Let's see. I think. Let's see. Rebuilt Babylon. Okay. All right, we will move on. Nothing specific there. Let's see. And there we go. All right, Babylon the Great. Some people believe this refers to the city of Rome. Some people believe that this is the same Babylon as Mystery Babylon, and that it refers to the city of Rome, because Rome sits because it sits on 7 hills and has the blood of saints and martyrs, which we talked about last week. Rome was also the center of the modern world at the time of John's writing. So it's a possibility that it could be Rome. Rome is only 5 miles from the sea, the actual city of Rome. The Roman airport, actually, the airport that services Rome, is actually right on the Mediterranean. Okay. A lot of people, and just recently, this is kind of a new thought, that Babylon the Great could be America, or specifically New York City. Some people believe, based on chapter 18 of Revelation, that this refers to America, or specifically New York City, as New York is the modern capital of the world, or at least the monetary capital of the world. Also, the United Nations are here in New York City. It sells everything. It trades in everything. It is, all the commodities are here. Let me read a little bit about that. This one, okay. In his book, Essays, this is from the Nonprofit's Guide to the Book of Revelation by Todd Hampson. In his book, Essays in Apocalypse, author Terry James makes a compelling case for the possibility that the headquarters of political Babylon may be located in the United States. Though the nation was built primarily on Christian principles, facilitating religious freedom, and though it has served as a traditional safe haven for the Jewish people, as well as the main exporter of missions and the Gospels to the world, America has, sadly, also become the chief exporter of abortion, immorality, and culturally corroding media to the world. Though many Christians are doing their best to serve as salt and light to preserve America's foundational principles, the onslaught of end times characteristics seem to be building to the point that when the rapture occurs, evil forces will immediately become rampant. This is the minority view of the three main ones, and those who hold to it say that New York, in particular, is an interesting candidate city if the political Babylon is located in America. The United Nations has its headquarters in New York, and the city is considered by many to be the financial capital of the world. So, those are the three main thoughts of who Babylon, or what Babylon the Great is. So before we even get into 18, just some more background on what Babylon the Great could be. Okay, let's go forth. All right, let me read some of this. All right, so after we saw the destruction of the religious Babylon, the woman on the beast, after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. And the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Okay. So obviously whatever city Babylon is, we do know it's a real city, and whatever system or political system the Antichrist puts into place, it is a real system, it is a real city. And a lot of these things that we just read are just sinful, totally against God, just totally man-centered, evil spirits, every foul and unclean bird, every home for demons. So wherever or whatever this is just a bad place. No place I want to be. Although there are a lot of people who like it, because a lot of people are getting rich off of it. And the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. So wherever this city is, these people are just getting rich off of it. All right, a voice from heaven commands all God's people to leave Babylon before its destruction. So who are God's people at that time? There's a few different views of who God's people are during that time. These are possibly those who are of different religions that have not heard the truth, and now God is giving them, a last-ditch effort to bring them the truth. It could be people who are saved during the tribulation time that have not yet been martyred or not yet been raptured, or but are still on the earth and in or around that city. Or it just could possibly mean that God just gives one final plea to anyone else who have not taken the mark or worship the Antichrist. So who are these people? We just don't know. Let's see. Let's see. Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her, double according to her works, in the cup which she hath filled, fill to her double. How much she hath glorified herself, and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Okay, let's go on. Is that right? Yeah, I guess so. All right, so God tells everybody, get out of this city, because I'm going to destroy it. These verses here are kind of unknown right now. Reward her even as she rewarded you, double unto her, double according to her works. So somehow God is telling these people to do something. As they come out, reward this city for everything that the city has done to them. Let's see. How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. So she is, again, the city is the biggest authoritarian city in the world. It's probably the capital of the world of some sort during the time of the Antichrist. And it's sort of like, you can't touch me. I have no, you can't fight against me. I have all authority over the earth, that sort of thing. So, so the Antichrist and this city just is the pinnacle of man's achievement. All right. Therefore, in one day, her plagues will overtake her. Death, mourning, and famine, she will be consumed by fire, for mighty is the Lord God who judges her. Okay, so the destruction of Babylon. Babylon boasts of her glory and her luxuries. We found that out just before. The destruction will happen in the span of 1 hour. It will be destroyed by fire. Now, this sounds a lot like the Old Testament with Sodom and Gomorrah, when God destroyed the cities with fire. And it didn't take very long. So some people believe this might be a nuclear attack on Babylon. Could be from those 10 kings from last week that didn't like her anymore. from 17. Who knows? Okay. When the kings of the earth who committed fornication, and the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, the great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore. We're going to read a little later in this chapter about God commands us to rejoice over her destruction, because God has judged her with righteous judgment. And later it will be overcome after an angel throws a huge boulder into the sea. So perhaps what's going to happen is it will be destroyed by fire first, and it will be nothing but smoldering ash. And then when the angel throws the boulder into the sea, the water will come in like a big tsunami and just wipe everything else away. But that's it. It will be totally, totally destroyed. So later it will be overcome after an angel throws a huge boulder into the sea, perhaps finishing it off with a great tsunami. Yeah. Okay. All right, let's talk about the merchants of the earth will weep and mourn. That's where we're at right now. Standing afar off for the fear of the torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise any more. The merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones, and of pearls, and fine linen, and purple, and silk, and scarlet, and all Thyan wood, and all manner of and all manner vessels of ivory, and all manner vessels of most precious wood, and of brass, and iron, and marble, and cinnamon, and odors, and anointments, and frankincense, and wine, and oil, and fine flour, and wheat, and beasts, and sheep, and horses, and chariots, and slaves, and souls of men. And the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. The merchants of all these things, which were made rich by her, shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas, that great city, that was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught. And every shipmaster and all the company in ships and sailors, and as many as trade by sea, stood afar off, and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like unto this great city? And they cast dust on their heads, and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, this great city wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea, by reason of her costliness. For in 1 hour is she made desolate. Okay, so the merchants of the earth are just weeping and mourning. Everything that they trade somehow goes through this city. And so they all the merchants have lost everything in the span of 1 hour. Merchants will weep and mourn over her destruction because they grew rich with her excessive luxuries. They cry and lament when they cannot grow rich from her cargoes. And they cannot make money from Babylon's purple and scarlet cloths. Now, I thought that was interesting because last week the woman riding the beast was clothed in purple and scarlet, right? So, so whatever they're selling is right in conjunction with the woman, the religious. So it all just kind of comes together. And everything that these merchants are buying and selling somehow go through Babylon. So let's see what else is here. Okay. And the destruction will be final. Final. All right. So let's look some more about the destruction. I could see it in the light. Okay, we spoke about the fact that we were supposed to rejoice. So rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for God hath avenged you on her. So we are commanded to rejoice over the destruction of Babylon, because the city was so wicked. I think that's why. And that the city caused a lot of people to be put to death. Okay, and a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. And the voice of harpers and musicians and of pipers and trumpeters shall be heard no more at all in thee, and no craftsman, or whatsoever craft he be, shall be found any more in thee. And the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee. And the light of the candle shall shine no more at all in thee. And the voice of the bridegroom and the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. In her was found the blood of prophets and of the saints, and of all who have been killed on the earth. Okay, so I switched to New International Version on that last verse. And in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all that were slain upon the earth. Okay. Nothing will be heard in Babylon anymore. No music, dancing, workers of trade. No lamps will be lit. No laughter, no bride, no bridegroom. By the sorceries that were begun in her city, she led all nations astray, away from God. And in her was found the blood of prophets and of God's holy people, and all, I put all hatred because that's where all deaths come from, all that have been killed on the earth. So this city has to do more with evil. The city system has to do more with evil than, I don't think anything good was ever found in Babylon at all. And the system, or the basis of Babylon, has been around forever, because it says, and in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all that were slain upon the earth. think about, when was the first killing done upon the earth, Rick? When was the first killing done?
When Cain killed Abel.
When Cain killed Abel, you're right. So think about it. It's like the evil that is in people's hearts is all found in this city. So it was a lot of words, but a lot of these words were just pretty much saying how evil this city was. Yeah? Any questions, comments?
I think this one was easier to understand than the last.
Than the last one? Yeah. Yeah.
Was there a lot of words in it?
Last week,
No, this one. Was there a lot of words in it? You read everything?
had to have a drink of water after reading it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, Babylon is so despised by God that he uses 2 chapters in Revelation to just document its destruction, both the religious Babylon and the political Babylon, commercial. So
I'm not saying I'm thinking it's New York, but you could see it being New York only because other reasons too is that when they took out the World Trade Center, they were trying to take out the world's economics, so it was in New York City. And also right now, as far as I know, in New York, they have the highest, people who died from the coronavirus as well.
like a judgment of God.
Something, but I think it may be a foretelling of what's to come. You know what I mean? But I'm not gonna. We don't know. You know what I mean? For absolute sure.
Right.
Whether it's a literal or it's a figurative,
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully we won't be here to find out.
That is true. A lot of people think that now, because of how it's affecting everyone in the entire world, that this is a prelude to the rapture.
The other thing I say too is that one of the things you said was it was kind of like God trying to give a last, to everyone who's, but it could but it's also, this whole thing is not going to happen. Christ coming back is not going to happen until every nation has been told.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of it kind of goes against each other in a way. You know what I mean? Because he wouldn't be set to, why would God give a last call, knowing that his son was going to come back, and knowing that his son wouldn't come back until everything was, every tribe, everyone in the world had found every nation had found out about Christ.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, why would he one last thing, knowing that nobody would come and knowing his son, you know what I mean? It's kind of works against each other.
Unfortunately, a lot of people can't see past the end of their nose, and which means that they really just see the world through their for and no more, or the people around them, instead of knowing that the world is a much bigger place than just what's in front of you. And so, because it's so, I don't know the word, I guess because it's so, there's a lot of suffering going on right now, that they feel that this has got to be close to the end. I am suffering, so we must be close to the end. You know what? There's going to be a lot more suffering.
We've had one plague. We've been in plagues. We have rumors of wars. Like the whole world is not in war right now or anything like that. We're on the precipice of being on war. And those are things that are foretold that'll be things that are, but that's those who are in Christ and who, are just kind of sitting there kind of willing, you know, let's say carnal Christians,
Mm-hmm.
I have some idea, maybe not a total idea, but I have some idea of what's going on and what the Bible has to say. Maybe not totally versed. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't want to say I'm totally versed in things, you know, by a long shot, but, you know, you're not going to be led astray by what these things are saying, you know, what's going on. You're going to
Mhm.
be kind of going, okay, well, this, you know, this is just the beginning of things.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So if it's anything, it's just the beginning of things and not like, you know.
Yeah. Welcome to a new normal. You know. You know.
The following attractions have been approved by the Church of God.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, having the whole world know about Christ before the end comes. It says before the end comes. It doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, before the rapture occurs. It could mean that the whole world still has to hear, will hear during the tribulation. Just don't know. I mean, it could be tomorrow. The rapture could happen tomorrow.
Yeah, but I'm saying this is, all these things are
But-
right at the very end of
Yes.
being, so you know, why, if he's right coming, why would you be the last couple of stragglers who, you know, who didn't think, you know, I mean, my thing is that, you know, by this time, everyone who would have known what's going on, God's
Mhm.
had enough, he's
Mhm.
not, you know, playing any games anymore, and he's coming, you know, he's sending his son back,
Yep.
so.
Yep. That's true. By this time, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying to me it's kind of, you know, to have a last call, last altar call, we'll say.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's kind of.
Yeah. It doesn't really say. One book I read believes it's people of other religions who grew up in other religions and are just, I'm a Hindu because my mom was a Hindu, because my dad was a Hindu, and this is what I grew up believing.
Okay.
So that's what one book says. It believes that it's people who are of other non-Christian religions
Right.
that are finally hearing the truth. And another book says it could be, you know, you know, more saved people during that time, you know, and so, you know, you just really don't know until you're there, and understanding.
But he knows.
He knows.
He knows exactly who's going to come to him before the foundation of the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So he knows. So why is it he's putting on a last? That, you know, if you're putting a final, I'm like, if you're putting a final judgment on things, you're putting a final judgment on things. That's it, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Time is up. You're done. You know what I mean? So why, you know?
Yeah.
It kind of goes against the character.
Well, it says, "Come out of her, my people." Who is his people in Babylon? Who is his people that he wants to come out of her? Her is always Babylon. So
Mhm.
it's like, is there some people that he has called to be in? You know, I don't know. I don't know what it could be. It could be people that were still not killed yet,
Okay.
that were saved during the tribulation, that hadn't taken the mark. We really don't know who his people are that he's talking about here.
That's right.
And because by this time most of those people are killed, most of them are martyred.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're either raptured or martyred, and that's it.
Okay. So maybe the ones that were hiding.
Or it
maybe
could
hiding
be,
them.
it could also be some sort of Jewish people, his people,
Okay.
are somehow still associated with Babylon. That I didn't even think about until just now.
Right. Yeah, because it's become a definitely.
Yeah.
It's his chosen people. So.
Yep. Yeah. But of course, we are grafted in, and we are his people too. Just because we're not, our grandfather wasn't Abraham, or,
Okay, Jeremiah is Isaiah, which one I was from.
yeah. So, all right. Well, any other questions or comments? All right. Next week is chapter 19.
It's twice as long as chapter 18.
Actually, it's shorter.
Okay. Okay, Teresa, you get a break.
Yeah, it is shorter. And then it's rejoicing in God again. It's a heavenly scene. And then after that is 20, which is the millennial kingdom and the judgments. And then we come to the new heaven and the new earth in 20 and 21. And then we'll in 21 and 22. And then we're done with Revelation. Holy cow. The best is yet to come now. All the evil is gone. All the bad stuff is Jesus is coming in the clouds, and he's going to set his feet on Jerusalem. And
The picture of